Hey everyone, it's Nikki. Welcome back. Today is week 4 of my I Love Christmas series. I'll be sharing a new Christmas DIY with you each week, all the way through the holidays, and sometimes a bonus video. So if you like festive DIYs, make sure you're subscribed and come and see me each week for a little Christmas cheer. And be sure to check out week 1, 2, and 3. All right, I have 3 ornaments for you today. We're going to start with this one, and you're going to see me going back and forth between all 3. But with this one, we're going to use this transfer that I got in one of my Etsy orders. It was a free gift, and it's from one of IOD's new releases, and I don't have this transfer book. If you know what it is, just go ahead and leave it down in the comments. But I had painted these ornaments a few months back, and I just got caught up in collaborations and stuff that I forgot about them. So today we're finally gonna do something with them. So like with all transfers, you just rub and then pull back as you go to release that backing sheet, and look at that beautiful image. I love how rustic and vintage it is. It's just so pretty. And I got these molds on Amazon. I have a whole bunch of different ones from Amazon, and I really don't use them enough. But after putting these together, I thought I need to use these more often. They don't have the micro rim that IOD has, and they're also not very deep, but I think they're perfect for ornaments and small projects. So I had poured some resin into these, which was quite tricky given the fact that they're not very deep. But these came out lovely. I was able to easily tear the excess resin, and because it's fresh, I'm able to mold it around my ornament easily. It is a bit stretchy, again, because it's not as deep, but it was a lot of fun to work with, and I would highly recommend to check out some of Amazon's molds. So I cast a bunch of different ones. I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do. I just knew that I wanted to work with some of these molds. So you're going to see me, playing around with placement and just having fun figuring out exactly, where my molds are going to go. And then once I have a plan, I go in with my super glue gel, and I'm going to start by adhering that right onto my ornament first, and then place my casting right into that glue. Now, of course, if you don't have resin, you could always use some hot glue or some clay. In fact, I am going to use some hot glue for one of these just to show you how beautiful it can come out with hot glue. Now, these MDF round ornaments, or should I say oval, I found these on Etsy, and I'll try to make sure I link those down below. I got 3 of them in a pack. I think it was like $6. I can't really remember, but I'll make sure that I have them linked for you if you want to check them out. Okay, I was unsure about these two because they are thicker, but I think it's minuscule and it looks fine in the end. So I added those to the sides. I had a lot of fun making these ornaments, and as I was making them, I thought, I haven't really made a lot of ornaments this year, and I really need to get on the kick because I have so many trees that need to be decorated, and I want to have a theme for each one of them. So once I had my castings placed, I went in with the color, I think it's Plaster by Waverly, and I'm going to paint all over my castings. I completely forgot to seal this first, but I do go in after and seal it, and just make sure that they're nice and dry, and I end up setting those off to the side so they can dry. And then this is my second one, and I want this to look a little bit differently. And when the resin is still fresh, it's so much easier to work with. You can trim it and shape it without worrying about it cracking or breaking. since these pieces are really thin, I can easily cut them back and mold them right around my ornament. And I'm just trimming off the extra with my scissors and cutting a few partials, or should I say cutting a few to turn them into partials. You can totally do partial castings or cut them like I'm doing here. It's honestly kind of fun to shape them and just see how they come together. I chose resin today because I want to be able to store these ornaments and have them last for years and years. If they fall off the tree, I don't want to worry about anything breaking. So resin really is the best option for that. And once I had those pieces in place, I wanted a bow, but none of the bows I already had cast were the right size. So I grabbed my Timeless Ties mold by Redesign, used a little bit of hot glue to make the perfect bow. And while that sets up, I'm going to go ahead and paint all my castings with the color Plaster by Waverly. And once my paint dried, I used some hot glue to adhere my bow right to the bottom of my ornament. And then I painted over it with plaster. For this ornament, I'm choosing these sweet little birds from my Yuletide transfer book, and that's by IOD. I'm making sure to cut the image to fit so there aren't any blank spaces. And then I set the image right in the center and start rubbing and pulling back on that transfer sheet as I go. Once I have my transfer on, I just burnish it using the backing sheet and then seal everything in with Extreme Garden Satin by Paint Couture. And then for my third ornament, for this one, I'm mostly using hot glue castings. The only resin piece is the one you see there on my mat. But I'm just going to use some hot glue to adhere my hot glue castings. I had an area on the right and left upper hand sides that needed a casting. So I did a partial and did some trimming to fit those castings in those little blank areas. I also painted those castings in the same color Plaster by Waverly, and then I chose this adorable Highland cow. It came from Tapeology, I think that's how you pronounce it. And you don't really even have to burnish it because it's a sticker. And so I just set that sticker and I space it every time I start burnishing it. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have to burnish it. And then once that was on, I sealed everything in with some Mod Podge. And you can see I'm using different techniques and just mix it up and have fun. I'm going to start going in with my glazes, and for this first one, I'm using light brown sugar glaze, and these are all by Paint Couture, making sure to push that glaze right into all those low points and then wiping back as much as I want with a damp rag. And you could totally skip this step altogether if you don't like the vintage look, but I am all about it, and I'm always chasing that vintage charm in my projects. And then for my birds, I'm using Van Dyke Brown, and I love this one because it's dark and rich and bold. It's my absolute favorite of all the glazes. For my Highland cow, I use the color Black Pearl. It's one of their Luxe metallic paints, and this one is really bold. It honestly made me a little anxious because as I was wiping it back, that black was getting everywhere. I used my water mister to help pull some of that back, or should I say a lot of it back. And then once I was happy with it and everything was all cleaned up, I let it dry very, very well. I mean, I got it so wet, it started lifting some of the white paint underneath. And yeah, I had to go back in and just make sure everything was glued well. And luckily, I had everything glued nicely and I didn't have a big mess. Then I'm going to go in with Crackle Step 1. This was like a last minute decision. So I let that dry, and off camera, I went in with Crackle Step 2. So we're going to jump right back into the glazes, and once again, I'm using the Van Dyke Brown for my birds and just push that into all of my cracks real well, and then wiping that back with a damp rag. And again, I can pull back as much as I want. And I just really want it settled into those cracks nicely. And then for this ornament, I use Perfect Pigments by Paint Couture in the color Aged Cafe. And I've used this one before, and this one makes me pretty nervous because it's so dark. And I had trouble both times that I've used it to pull back a lot of that dark. So this one got pretty dark. And, if you've used this pigment powder before, let me know what you used it on. And if you have any tricks or, up your sleeve. Sorry, I'm having trouble getting my words out today. I do like the end result, but I do get a little nervous when I'm working with really dark colors like this, especially the pigment powders. I struggle with those. And then for my little cow, I decided to go in with some light brown sugar glaze and just, I don't know, just to add a little extra glow into those low points. And I really like how this one turned out. It's funny though, sometimes the ones we struggle with are the ones that end up being our favorites. And then for the castings, I decided to paint over them with more of that black pearl, but just on the high points. I'm just getting along the top there and making sure I put on a nice coat of that. Then I brought it around the sides and then painted the backs of the castings and then brought it a little bit onto the ornament there. And I really like how that looks. I let that dry and then went in with Crackle Step 2. I don't think I used Crackle Step 1 on this one. I think I forgot. So I just went in with Crackle Step 2 and it did the trick and results perfect. So I don't know if I necessarily need to use 1 and 2. And then for this one, I used bronze metallic paint and I did the same technique with this one. And then for my birds, I added this bronze metallic paint to the high points of this one and then around the sides and the back. And I do end up doing the backs of all of these. So I was really liking how the bronze metallic paint was looking on my cow. So I went over my castings with it and I really think that added a nice highlight. And then I took the color Pewter by Lumineer and then used my finger and started adding some of that beautiful silver. And I think that pairs so well with the black. This one had lots of layers. And I took that bronze metallic paint and went all around the sides of my castings. I think it kind of just adds a nice glow and kind of frames in those castings. And I add a little bit more along the top. And then took some rub and buff and then really highlighted those castings. And this was the icing on the cake. I just love the layers and the silver tones and the gold tones. They're all just so beautiful. And then once everything was done, I went over all of them with Pentart's pouring glaze. And you literally just pour this over the top and spread that glaze around and let it dry. And I do end up letting this dry overnight. I'm just changing my angles and orientation with this to help spread it around. It really adds a nice shine. And that completes my vintage style ornaments. I absolutely love how these turned out. Look at that beautiful crackle, and I'm so glad I added the layers of gold and silver with this one. I was really thinking that I wasn't gonna like how this one turned out. And then my birds, I think these are just so sweet, and again, I love the crackle on this one. If I could change anything about this one, I would have added the color red to my bow. But otherwise, I adore this one. And I think this one came out lovely too. Even though I was really nervous with the perfect pigments, I think it was the perfect touch for this. And I can't wait to hear what you guys think of these ornaments. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. I'm working hard towards my goal of 2,000 subscribers by the beginning of the year. I appreciate you being here for week 4 of my I Love Christmas series. Until the next one, bye.